ranging from sort of the small-scale, hyper-local suppliers all the way up to the Coca-Colas and the Red Bulls of the world. So that whole spread. And basically, we facilitate the transaction as well as the logistics and payments in some cases.
Nice. Eric?
Yes, my name is Eric Landgren. I'm one of the co-founders of Ljusgårda. So we are a Swedish vertical farm, very focused on industrial scale and large volumes, making big impacts. But I would say that in this capacity and on the topic of doing good, I'm more here as the initiator of a program called Growth for Change. So we're working with urban farming, especially in informal settlements of Nairobi. So working with food and entrepreneurship in the slum areas of Nairobi.
Nice, good to know. Making good. I just wanted to share something with you because when I was a journalist, I saw the impact word coming in, in the narrative, and I will say, impact means anything. So by saying that is that you're doing good, and we're talking about doing good, but how you make sure that you're doing actually good.
For Too Good To Go, we actually measure impact. That we measure our KPIs at saved meals. That's the impact. So we are in 17 countries, and we have been live since 2016. And since we started, we have saved like 140 million meals, which is impact at scale. However, I'm not really here to speak about Too Good To Go. I'm here to speak about Ukraine.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I should do that.
No, but we're going to get to this afterwards.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure that it's a very important thing that all of you speak about how you measure impact, how you measure doing good, because it avoids greenwashing and whatever. So important.
Yeah. So for us, it's like we don't even measure money.
Yeah.
Like our main KPI is saved meals. Every time we do our quarterly reports, that's what we get measured on.
Great. Jesper?
No, I think it's important to keep in mind doing good should be in the eyes of the receiver, not so much in the eyes of the giver. And that's, I think, usually the narrative. Usually you do something to feel good about yourself, right? And you label it as doing good. And at least from our perspective, that's sort of how we would like to twist the narrative to make sure that we're actually facilitating something for the receiver. And I think that's a big difference. Like, honestly, otherwise it's just about feeling good for yourself.
Yeah, I can follow your lead as well on that question, because if we look at the project of Growth for Change and doing impact in that kind of context, we're looking at there's a one way that we are looking at it. So they have issues with food, they have issues with nutrition, they have issues with toxicity, for example, in the ways that they produce food today. But that's only symptoms of something larger. So actually going down to root cause has been one of the larger challenges on the projects that we've done, and to do that we secure that by having almost 3 years of feasibility study before actually knowing what makes the biggest impact and what is actually doing good and benefiting the people there. There's, as Jesper said, there's often a view from the viewer's perspective, the one who would like to do good, that this should be a problem that we should solve, but actually going all the way down to root cause, I think, is one of the major things to do.
Good way to say it. The topic we wanted to address also today is Ukraine. You mentioned it, but more about Ukraine is we had COVID, now Ukraine. How do you keep going on your mission when you have such a strong macro event that can affect all of what you're doing?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, like the crisis in Ukraine, which is horrific, of course. The whole food system at the moment is obviously also making the prices rise, which is then there's even more need for our product. But I have myself, like personally, done what I can for Ukraine by being a co-founder to an organization called Operation Aid. So we started it, the first day of the invasion, and we started it with sending buses to Ukraine, or to Poland actually, and then we brought people back, and I don't think, no one knew what we were going for, but it ended up, I think we have now shipped 56 buses in total, and I think it's about 60 transports of aid that we have collected and sent down. So, I mean, we do what we can, and also Too Good To Go is also supporting in the Polish team that we have, which is heavily affected.
Yeah, because you're based in Poland also.
Yeah. So we have the whole team in Poland is allowed to do voluntary time for Ukraine, which I think was necessary because they're very close, and that's also where Operation Aid was. So I've seen it.
Can you have a long-term vision already if the conflict is, taking more time?
It's very tough to say. What I can say, I've been to Ukraine 3 times now, and it's definitely changed since I was there the first time, and there is not that much need anymore for transports in the sense of bringing people to Sweden. What is definitely needed is aid and food, because the food has run out, and that's horrific. So the need has changed. I can't say what the word on the ground is that this is not over yet. This is long. Which is obviously something that we need to cope with in our businesses and also rethink.
So Jasper, how do you cope with that?
No, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to how the organization is built up within the company. For us, we act as a little bit of a connector within the food industry. So we're very fortunate to very early on have, a lot of suppliers, as I said, a couple of hundred that are connected to the platform. And we kind of took just coming back to what you said, we kind of took, again, the vision of what does the receiver need? What type of food items, like sanitation, whatever it might be. And that's how we started our initiative that we spoke about briefly previously. And we've, since then, I think we've delivered 250 tons of food, so metric tons of food. It's a couple of truckloads that have gone down, and it's just been done through this connectedness. And I think, again, in terms of how our organization is actually built up. Large suppliers, everything from Findus, that I'm sure everyone knows, Orkla, Upfield, etc., which have all been very kind to donate. And we've been able to coordinate together with the Red Cross in Poland to make sure that they're actually receiving what's needed. So not just what people want to send, this is stuff that we need to throw away. These are products that are needed. But that all started from how the organization was built.
That's great. Built from the ground up.
Yeah.
Eric?
Yeah, and for me and the work that we do, we need to move a little bit away from Ukraine because we're not doing it there. We're doing it in Nairobi. It's another context.
Sure.
But they have the same impact from things that we see on a macro trend basis. So what is happening for climate change, for example, is a much bigger topic here. So we are talking about it here, but it's happening somewhere else. So if we're talking drought, for example, or talking about what you need to grow your own food in areas like that, those are the places that are the most heavily impacted so far yet. We can see a price increase of 10% here, but they will see an increase or decrease of meals per day. So it's a big difference on if you compare that to what we see here. But it's the same thing. We need to look at that and see how we can, with our technology, for example, knowledge transfer what we do at Husqvarna, which is pretty high-tech. It needs lots of investments, but it's based on hydroponic growing. So where you take away the factors that are changing to make a more sustainable way of growing and making it less, decreasing the risk of growing, for example, for food.
We're running out of time already. It's very, very cool subject, but anyone wants to add a question? And I have one last, but as I already answered it, so maybe it's for more Jasper and Eric. But the acceleration of crisis makes you realize that you really need to be prepared to act, really quick and do things differently. So how do you integrate that in the model that it's scaling right now in your company?
Yeah, good question. So I think from our perspective, it's always come down to being, all this change has to be a part of the business model. It can't be something that takes place side by side. It just doesn't work. It's hard to push it into the normal business day, so to say. So I think that's key. And also, of course, this might sound kind of flummy or whatever, but we often talk about staying connected and disconnected at the same time. So being on the ground, understanding what's happening, but also having the ability or the possibility to actually see it from a 10,000 meter perspective, because that way you can kind of see the trends. So I think that's what we're trying to do, at least. Some cases very successfully, some cases not so successfully.
Good.
And I can just follow that up with Husqvarna as well, because the sole reason we exist as a company is to prepare us for what is happening on a macro trend level, especially when producing food. So we know for certain that things are going to change in the world. We know for certain that climate is changing, and that's the main parameter for growing food. So the reason we exist is to make a food system that is not that is more resistant to changes like that. So, for example, we know climate is changing. We know that the supply chain, all the way from the grower, when we have a global food system, is very, very weak to stand for changes like that. So how can we get food closer to us, and how can we make sure that we can provide food, even if we have 4 meters of snow outside or 4 months of drought? I think you will see a lot of companies just emerging from that area, and things is changing, and how do we prepare for that? Yeah.
Great. Asa, you wanted to add something maybe as a conclusion?
No, I think like for Too Good To Go, we have applied a business model which is very easy to scale, obviously we also feel the effects of the surroundings. I would be like lying if I didn't, but we can easily apply this, like the model, the setup, the app in all of our markets. So when we launch a new market, it's very easy to do a copy-paste, really. When it comes to Operation Aid, it's really what you said. Like, we needed to go there and we needed to move so quickly. We had no idea what we were doing. And we are now 30 people in this voluntarily organization, all depending on funding, for sure. But what we could see was that we could move much quicker than the bigger organizations. So for the first 2 months, we were the only one there.
That's crazy. But that's a good sign, also a very optimistic sign, if we can say. So big round of applause for you, what you're doing. And I encourage you to go deeper on what you're doing, because you may be inspired. So thank you, and have a great day. We're going to move to the next panel. Yeah, thank you. So food reciprocity and the wider society. I think we are, is there...
I think it's time for some pitches, actually.
It's time for some pitches. My bad. It's a break for me. Great to see you.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
So great. It's time to move on to some pitches again, and handing over the stage to some companies. I will quickly introduce myself. I'm Anna. I work for Kinnevik, part of the investment team. Kinnevik, as you might know, is a generalist investor here from Sweden, but we have a strong focus on food. So super happy to be here today and moderate these pitches. If you are a company, you take this mic, hold it close to your mouth, and here this one you use to change if you are using slides. So I think that is the only instructions you need today. Cool. I will actually hand over the stage already to the first company, which is Rewild. Are you guys here? No Rewild. Then I hand over the stage to EpicBase. Oh, there you go.
I'm EpicBase anyway.
Cool. We do like this. Nice. There you go.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I have 2 minutes to introduce a platform that contains 8 modules to help food and beverage companies to manage their back of house. So I'm going to go very high over. I'm Carl. I'm co-founder and CEO of EpicBase. EpicBase is a company from Belgium building software to help food and beverage businesses to